had recorded the entirety of this video yesterday, which was a Sunday. My dog was with my roommate, so he wasn't freaking out like this, playing with his toy. And there was no traffic outside because it was a Sunday. So I was very happy because the video came out really eloquently and silent. But as it turned out, it was all out of focus. And so here I am, recording again. Hello everybody, I'm Roxy. This is a special highlights video because I did film a TBR, which I never do, which you can find here and down below. And I also participated in Booktubeathon, so my reading time for the Winter Wonderland was a little bit cut short. That didn't make that much of a difference. At most I would have finished one or two, but I did love, and I do mean love, participating in the Booktubeathon, and I do have a wrap-up filmed for that, as well as a TBR, and 5 videos from the challenge. I'm quite proud of myself at that. Let's start. I'm going to start with the books I started but didn't get to finish for one reason or another, and the first one of those is It says Sleeps, Stumbles and Verbal Blunders and What They Mean. So it's a book about verbal mistakes, blunders, etc. And although it's public linguistics, I did hope this would be a bit more structured and a bit more scientific. And it's not that it's baseless and factless, no. It's just it's much more narrative. It's structured as chapters, seem a bit disjointed, and because I wasn't in the mood for that and it was not what I was expecting, I was like a bit let down, and so I put it down. But then I picked it up, so you will definitely hear more about this at the end of August. I also started Timekeepers by Simon Garfield, and I really adore this, but then Booktubeathon happened. This is all about time and humans and how we have assessed time throughout our history and why have we become obsessed with it lately. And yes, it's very interesting. It's also gorgeous. Now, I've also been reading Economy, a User's Manual by Ha-Joon Chang. This is the version in Spanish, so this is not what your cover would look like, but yes, Ha-Joon Chang is brilliant. Anyone who's interested, at least like tangentially, in economics, they should pick this up. It's so comprehensive. I just think this is fascinating and you should definitely pick it up. I'm also planning on reading Norwegian Wood by Haruki Murakami. I have loved every single thing I've read from Murakami, but all of it has been non-fiction. So conversely, his reflections on his craft and his own life. They say this is a good like gateway to Murakami, like it's his most realistic book. I've been told, I wouldn't know. But yes, I am planning on reading this. I have started actually, and honestly I'm quite taken by it. So we'll see how this turns out. And I also have A Natural History of Dragons, a memoir by Lady Trent. So this is the first one in what I thought was a trilogy, but as it turns out it is apparently a saga, documenting the fake memoirs of Lady Trent. So if you have been in this channel for a couple of months already, I think you might know that this is what I live for. And I don't mean fantasy, because I do enjoy fantasy, but it's not necessarily something I reach for, but fake memoirs. Like I loved, and I still think about Hanya and Yana Nihara's People in the Trees. I just adored that so much. And then I also read Mai Jia's The Gift, and I really enjoyed that. And I just love fake memoirs because I think they require a level of like literary dexterity that it's astonishing. And yes, so this is that, a leading lady scientist who studies dragons, and it's supposed to be fabulous. Although I'm a little iffy on this being a series instead of a trilogy, I've already hopped on board of this ship, so yeah, we'll see how it turns out. It looks quite fascinating and the cover is so pretty too. Anyways, let's get on to review the books that I actually read. Oh my god, this took so much more than I expected. So the first book I read out of that TBR was Freedom by Jonathan Franzen. This is a family saga which also goes extremely in depth with each individual character that really had me gripped from the beginning. Like I was so engrossed, and I think it's because the first part is narrated through a neighbor of the family, and it just it grabbed me. It deals with gentrification, it deals with ecology, it deals with politics, it deals with family drama and coming of age, and it's wonderful. Jonathan Franzen writes this unbearably dark and annoying characters, and at the same time they're so fascinating. So this is depressing, so if you don't like depressing books, don't even come near this. This is also filled with unlikable characters, so if you want to care about the character, probably this is not your book. But it was utterly genius, and I think everyone should read it just because it's so fascinating. What I will say though is that it did tend to go soap opera-ish at times. The family drama was so strong that sometimes it did get Days of Our Lives, but it was so worth it, because human drama in contemporary age, I don't think I have ever seen dealt in this way. And it was really, really good. So I really recommend it if it sounds like your thing, because again, I think this book has the potential of making a lot of people hate it, but I loved it. So yeah, 4 out of 5. Then I read something that wasn't on my TBR, surprise, surprise. Hyperbole and a Half by Ali Brosh. And I think this book was kind of hyped a couple of years on BookTube, but I wouldn't know because I wasn't there. But anyways, it's a collection of Ali's webcomics with some additional ones that aren't featured on her web. And it was super fun. It was a light read, and after Freedom, it was kind of what I needed. I laughed out loud several times, and I also cried with this because Ali's depictions of depression are just so realistic, so humane and so raw. They really touched a nerve inside me, like I was sobbing uncontrollably. That said though, there is really no connecting thread between all the stories. It's not like you pick up this book and you think, okay, I started here, I ended up there, and it has been a worthwhile journey. It was more just, okay, let's put together, and pretty colors. I don't think this deserved to be a book, quite honest. I mean, I'm happy that Ali has managed to turn her art into a profitable market. I do think that her drawings are amazing because they're basic and grotesque, but so expressive. Like, they get the point across. And they pair well with her, like, simple narrative. I did give it 3 stars instead of 2, although I do think the quality itself is 2 stars, because I do think that the way mental illness is represented here, along with self-esteem issues, is so realistic and so important. I think this will be a great read for many people, including myself, but I don't think it's that good a book, if that makes any sense. I always put it like this: I'm glad I read it, I'm glad I didn't pay for it, and it was lent to me. So yeah, there you go. Then I read The Need for Better Regulation of Outer Space by Pippa Goldschmidt. This is an extremely average short story collection dealing with science. And I used to say all about historical figures in science. There is history here, but it's not the majority. And that was disappointing because, with one exception, most of the great stories here were about historical fiction and science, and that was great. One of my favorite was the Snow White Paradox. It was really good, about Alan Turing. The one about Bertolt Brecht was also quite good. Like one about men who were in the Antarctic or the Arctic, and they were just reflecting upon their lives while being trapped there. It was quite fascinating. But other than that, there were mostly 2-star stories, 2.5. There were a couple of 1-star stories there. There were a couple of 4 and 5. That's why I'm saying this is not a 50-50 hit or miss radio for me. It's more like a 60-40 kind of thing. I'm going to leave the link down below to my Goodreads review, because there I did like a short review for each story, so I think you will enjoy that. And then I read a book that I keep forgetting I read, The Danish Girl by David Evershoff. This book started really strong and ended up a disaster, a mess, let's say. This was a mess. It started so evocative and precious, and just like every description was so well put together, and the interior worlds of Greta was so well presented. And yeah, in case you haven't seen the movie, this is about, of course, Einar, whose wife sort of discovers for him that she is actually a transgender woman, and the journey they go together as a unit. This is more focused on the marriage, I think, and the internal world of each of the characters than the actual, let's say, transition process. I don't know how well researched is in terms of medicine and trans experience. The thing is that by half of it, it completely lacked focus. So many things happen here that are so outside the frame of time and history, and just it felt very disappointing, and I kept forgetting I had read it. So it's utterly forgettable, wouldn't recommend it, but if you want to check it out, it's on you. I gave it 2 out of 5 because, again, the prose started really strong, but then kind of like it couldn't save the narrative thread itself, which was crashing terribly. Then finally I read A Single Swallow by Horatio Clare. So this is about Horatio, who goes through Africa back to his country, which is Wales, of course, and he follows the migratory patterns of one swallow or one group of swallows, and he writes about it in a great way because he interacts with people so much. He's so eager to get out there and get to know people, and I think for people who like travel writing, it says here by Daily Mail, travel writing at its very best. Utterly brilliant. I don't think it's brilliant, but I do think it's great. If you are not that into non-fiction, maybe this can help you get there. I will say though that it deals way more with Africa's political situation than swallows themselves. So I was missing swallow data here. There is some, but not nearly enough. It should have more swallow content, and it's not that I don't want to know about Africa's political situation, especially after this I want to check out more, but it's not what was promised, you know, and that's super important. And also the ending was kind of meh, so I get endings are hard. I'm not saying like I have all the answers, but it was missing a solid ending to go with the rest of the book. Other than that, the narrator's voice is not the most compelling ever. He's not the most likable character, and he doesn't really allow the reader to get to know him, which didn't bother me because I like travel writing, so I'm not interested in getting to know the guy, but some people find it annoying. I saw on the reviews and I thought I should mention it. Okay, and that was all. So this is what I actually read, plus of course the Booktubeathon books that you will find here on the eye and down below as always. I hope you enjoyed this video. It's going to be a little longer and I didn't get to talk about movies, and because I've been watching quite a few movies, I mean for my standards, I thought about doing a separate like movies I've watched lately video. If you'd like that, please tell me in the comments, and please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, comment, and check out my channel in Spanish. It's always here. See you next time. Quite often about Hania Yana Ihara's about Hania. It. On top of that, I also want shit, motherfuck. Sorry, I should have cursed.